Now, originally, I was going to do a completely new video review for the 1998 Godzilla remake. Since the new movie's coming out, I wanted to do a more critical analysis of the movie rather than just fanboyisms that I had in my original review from March of last year, that you can find on my AlexG8462 channel for a short period of time, because I realized, looking back at the movie again, having watched it again, and boy was it a challenge, my opinion really hasn't changed all that much. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move that review over to this channel and delete the old video on AlexG462, meaning I lose all those good views. I get told a lot that review makes people laugh and people enjoy that one because I just get so pissed off the movie, so I'm hoping you guys enjoy the same thing. I don't like to do prologues for videos that are more than 10 seconds at the most, but I just had to tell you this because my opinion really hasn't changed since I did the review last year, and I don't have time to do a commentary on the entire movie. So I think I'll do that when the Blu-ray of this new movie gets released. And yeah, with that said, here's my old review of Godzilla 1998 from March of last year. Look at this movie.
The plot to this movie is that, obviously, a giant creature attacks the Japanese, or at least the Japanese tanker. A scientist played by Ferris Bueller, or Matthew Broderick, is brought into the U.S. Army to find out what it is that actually caused the disaster. Eventually, this creature lands in New York City, wreaks havoc, and turns into a generic 1950s monster movie. Except that this would even be too idiotic for movies from that period of time. I mean, Matthew Broderick's character is too much of an idiot to really believe him as a scientist. I mean, for all the people who were bitching about the scientists in Prometheus not acting like scientists, watch this movie again and see how Matthew Broderick's stupidity makes the scientists in Prometheus look like Doc Brown from Back to the Future. His girlfriend is a real tipsy, I don't know, and there's one scene in this movie, something that she does in this movie, where you go, "You stupid, ungrateful bitch." There are too many unnecessary comic relief moments, really pointless characters, annoying characters, and some unbelievable moments of stupidity. This all falls into the realm similar to Duh! Now, the main reason why I absolutely despise this movie and why other fans despise this movie is because it carries the name Godzilla and has nothing to do with the actual source material. Yes, we already know that the monster looks nothing like the original Godzilla. So let's ignore that. That's already a given. Let's look at why else this movie is a complete middle finger to fans of the original. I'm going by the original 1954 classic only. I'm not comparing the rest of the series to this one movie because it's a remake. Reboot didn't even exist until Batman Begins came out. So we are focusing on the one movie it is supposed to be a remake of. Now, in the original movie, Godzilla's origin is never really explained into detail. We know that he's a dinosaur resurrected by the atomic bomb, or the hydrogen bomb, but other than that, he's mysterious, he's scary, and the whole point of his creation was to be a metaphor for the H-bomb, since Japan, 9 years earlier, was the country to be first exposed to the hydrogen bomb due to the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In this movie also, the characters are smart, likable, and they play an important role to the story. There is a love subplot in it in the form of a love triangle between Ogata, Emiko, and Dr. Serizawa. But it never distracts from the meat of the story. In fact, it's the main drive of the story. This movie, on the other hand, has whimsical moments of romance between Matthew Broderick and his dumb broad. And whenever these moments happen, it's just like the main characters seem to forget that there's a giant lizard walking around New York. In the 1954 movie, even when Emiko and Ogata are trying to break the news to Dr. Yamane and Serizawa that Emiko wants to marry Ogata instead of Serizawa, they never forget that Godzilla is a problem. Hell, Emiko is sworn to keep the oxygen destroyer a secret for Serizawa due to fear that it could be a bigger weapon than the hydrogen bomb. After Godzilla destroys Tokyo, after she sees the people dead or dying, she is forced to break that promise. She is forced to break that promise so Godzilla could be killed. And what's the expense of it? The expense is of Serizawa's life. He gives up his life so the oxygen destroyer could only be used once. And that is strong characters and real emotion. Where these human characters just don't do shit at all. They're useless, unfunny, and fucking annoying. Now let's get into the main reason everyone hates this movie. The radical redesign of Godzilla. Now, when you hear the word Godzilla, what do you think of? Because whenever I hear the word Godzilla, I immediately think of a exaggerated dinosaur. I mean, the movie was made in the 1950s, so dinosaur. You don't think of a giant iguana. I mean, these two, do they look remotely the same? Yeah, I thought not. So, I mean, that's all I have to say about that. Probably just the excuse to show this. Now, both creatures were made by the atom bomb. This monster was nuked by originally being an iguana. I don't know why. And in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, they established that Godzilla was its own species of dinosaur, a Godzillasaurus. So that's strike one. Another thing is that this monster, we see it breathe fire, but more like it's shooting out gas that somehow ignites and sets things on fire. It only uses it once on the military. Which brings me to the last three problems I have with this abomination. The military in this movie is fucking stupid. For unleashing all their firepower, all of their weaponry at the single monster, they can't hit him. How is it they can miss a giant monster? I mean, as useless as the military was in the Transformers movies, at least they can hit their targets. At least they can take down a Decepticon grunt. But going back to the original Godzilla series, 28 movies, they know that military fire can't do anything against Godzilla, but they still manage to hit the monster. Which segues to the next thing. Godzilla runs away from the military, doesn't bother to fight. In the original series, Godzilla could take hit after hit after hit, and probably one or two blasts from his atomic breath would take out the entire military force. And this person I know said they redesigned it so it could be more badass. Yeah, because nothing's more badass than a giant monster running away and hiding from the military rather than fighting it off himself. And let me say this. How bad is it when a rubber suit is more convincing than the crappy CG they used to make this monster come to life? Speaking of which, the monster doesn't destroy anything in this movie. Yeah, I mean, he steps on a few cars here and there. He's knocked over some boats. We are told that he kills people, but we never actually see it. And he'll scratch buildings with his tail. Yes, he destroyed the MetLife building, and yes, he did destroy the Brooklyn Bridge, but he got caught in the Brooklyn Bridge due to being trapped, and he was struggling to get free. In the MetLife building, he just walks through, and there's a giant hole in the building while it's still standing. Logic. Who destroys the Flatiron building? Who destroys the Chrysler building? The military. They can't hit Godzilla, but they can sure as hell destroy the landmarks of New York City. And then finally, to people who are watching this movie for the first time or trying to get into Godzilla, you're like, wait, why is Godzilla running from the military? Why doesn't he fight? When you get to the end of the movie where Godzilla's shot down by the F-18s and their torpedoes, you're like, oh, that's why Godzilla doesn't fight the military, and that's why the military misses so much. because this Godzilla can be easily killed. That is insulting to Godzilla's power, and it's just... I mean, that is just unbelievable. And then they pull that bullshit at the end where it's like, what if we're the true monsters for killing this monster. Wait, we're all cheering? Okay, yay, monster is dead. And going back to the 1954 movie, after the word is heard that Godzilla has been killed, they do cheer for it, but they're also not too celebrative about the death of Godzilla because they also lost Dr. Serizawa. That's enough bitching about the monster in general. I mean, even people who aren't Godzilla fans, like my dad, I had a conversation with him recently about Godzilla as I was doing my whole Godzilla marathon, and he said, look, I may not be a fan of Godzilla, but when it comes to this movie, I know that is not Godzilla. Oh, by the way, this movie came out in 1998. You want to know what Toho made in 1998? Rebirth of Mothra 3 with Mothra and King Ghidorah. So while their most cherished character was getting butt-fucked in the US, Mothra and King Ghidorah, the next two biggest Toho characters, were in a movie treated with respect, and it was really good. Not great, not a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a good, entertaining movie. Now I'm going to make a confession, and then I'm going to say something that will contradict everything I just said. After Godzilla Final Wars came out, or after I saw the movie, and after Toho had their one last punchline at TriStar for this abomination of a movie, I watched it again with the mindset that this is its own monster now. It's Zilla. It's not Godzilla. And I thought, you know what? The movie's actually pretty decent. It's pretty good. This was when I was 14. I watched the movie just last month while doing Godzilla Month and talking to this person that you know who you are. And I rewatched it again. I thought, oh my god, not only is this back to being a bad movie, but it's even worse than I remember it. I mean, I was almost gonna go through the thing of, as a Godzilla movie, it could burn in hell, but as just a generic monster movie, watch at your own risk. But because I saw the American remake again last month, whether it's a Godzilla movie or not, this movie can burn in hell. I mean, I absolutely hate it, but I do not hate it on the level I do the Transformer movies, and that is because Toho was on the sidelines with a sponge and water to clean up the mess. A year after this movie came out, Godzilla 2000 was made, and Toho made 5 more Godzilla movies afterwards, and I'm assuming the reason was to keep TriStar from making more sequels to this abomination. And then you could watch my reviews for the Millennium series to find out more, especially Godzilla 2000. I have hopes that the new American reboot will be good. I mean, the concept art, they got the look of Godzilla right. The casting. This movie had just a bunch of like, hey, let's get popular actors or people who really can't act for shit. This movie actually seemed to get people who are respected actors. I mean, we got Elizabeth Olsen, who I've said is really good from her Sundance debut. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is Kick-Ass. I've seen him be really good in stuff other than Kick-Ass. Ken Watanabe is really good in movies like Inception. I haven't seen The Last Samurai, but he was incredible in that, from what I've heard. And he was really good in Letters from Iwo Jima. So for this American version, I have hopes for it. I'm probably going to keep my expectations to a minimum. I'm going to try because you know I am a huge Godzilla fan. But after the last time America made a Godzilla movie, I'm going in there with a shotgun, cautious. I'm not actually going to take a shotgun to the theater, but I'm just going to be cautious when this movie comes out.
Well, wasn't that an interesting blast from the past? And it really does show how far I've come from last year. But Anyway, that's my review of Godzilla from 1998. Leave a comment, tell me what you thought of the movie. Subscribe to my channel for more stuff in the future. Check out my other channel, AlexG8462. You can find links to my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr accounts on my YouTube page. Go check me out at letterboxd.com, letterboxd.com, under the name The Real Mr. Robinson. Share me with your friends and tell them about me, and remember to know it before you see it. This has been The Cinemas with Mr. Robinson, and I'll see you guys later.